David, you want to introduce yourself? I mean, I guess we already did a little bit, but
So yeah, well, first off, thank you guys for having me and for being there. It's really an honor to get to speak to you guys about my experience and kind of share the floor with Carrie and Bryan. Um, so I'm gonna be a 6-year NFL vet. I just signed an extension with the Buffalo Bills, and my story is kind of unique. I've been with Carrie for really my all of my 4 years with the Rams, and she was an awesome resource for me to train my brain to kind of move on from negative plays within the game or a practice, as well as personal stuff, right? Um, my last year with the Rams in 2022, I had suffered a pretty severe concussion and had seen a ton of specialists around the country and really had struggled to find the right therapy to get me to 100% again. And when I first sat down with Bryan, I did the brain map and was able to kind of put words into physiology of my symptoms. Everything made total sense and kind of was the therapy and the path to recovery that I was really looking for. So that's why I'm here. I'm eternally grateful to Bryan and to Carrie for what they've done for me, not just as an athlete, but also personally.
awesome. Do you mind, David, if I bring up your brain maps?
Go ahead.
All right, perfect. So whites and greens are perfect. These are all areas that are staying so high up. And these are theta waves, which are going to be very fatiguing waves. These slow down the brain. It's fine to produce this when you're dead tired or when you're waking up or going to sleep. You don't want to produce these waves during the day. Okay? This slows down all that frontal lobe. And when I went over this and I'm talking to them a little bit about memory and things like this, I remember, you mentioning, David, that like just, I don't know, a week or two before or something, that you were doing a charity little spot right on TV, and like you're like, I couldn't even remember the charity name, sitting there.
Yes. And so I'm sitting there getting interviewed by the Rams, and they said, "Well, what is the organization that you are representing?" And I completely blank out. I'm sitting there like, are you kidding me? I can't remember this. And it eventually comes to me. I say, "Oh, Warrior Rising." But that's when I knew, like, holy crap, this is nuts that I can't even remember that. And then I also, I called my mom on her birthday to wish her happy birthday while I was on IR. This was before we started neurofeedback therapy. And I completely forgot to wish her a happy birthday. And like 3, 4 hours later, I call my dad and I'm like, "Dad, I can't believe I called mom and I didn't wish her happy birthday." We talked for like 30 minutes and I didn't wish her happy birthday. So that's when I was like, man, I am not doing well. And the path that I was on was not helping me. So those were the two glaring examples, Bryan, when I came to see you,
Yeah.
that I was like, man, I need some help.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, and this will do that to anyone. I mean, this is the state a brain would be in if, David, I woke you up in the middle of the night and said, "David, remember these 10 things," and you'd be like, "Hang on, wait, I'm not even awake yet. Let me just think for a minute." And that would be because you had all these theta waves slowing this down, and that's all the executive function, memory, just attention is hard. Just things like, sometimes reading or things like that, just paying attention to what you're even doing is going to be harder with this. And then you had some of this beta, which are these more anxiety waves, and you can see those were in the same area as this, which is compensation. So if this is slowing down, you've got to have some anxiety to push through. Otherwise, you would have just, checked out and not really done anything.
I felt like when I first of all, you didn't when we did the brain map, and I don't know, Carrie, if you remember this, I told you my symptoms, and you scrolled down like you just did, and you go, everything that I was feeling had a correlation between the theta and the beta waves. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I was looking for in terms of somebody being able to put into words what I was feeling and having a physiological explanation for it. Like I can remember just going through well, your delta waves look good. Here are your theta waves. Tell me how you feel. And I said, I'm exhausted. I can't sleep well. I can't focus. I have just this terrible ability to organize and portray memory. And then like with my beta, it was like I could never feel like I was in control of my thoughts, and it was always like the gas pedal was at 100%, and my mind would constantly race on like it was just like a constant overflow of information in my brain. I would take, meeting time or being at home, and it was like, well, now I got to do this, and it was just my brain never shut off. And so again, being able to sit with Bryan and say, hey, here are your symptoms, here's the physiology that kind of meshes together, and why everything would make sense as to why you're feeling the way you feel.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. I love being able to show the physiology behind the behaviors that are created, where so much of the time we're looking at the behaviors, but you cannot change that when the physiology is here. And the great thing, why you even came to us and were aware of that, is because you knew through Carrie that those behaviors were not there before. You knew this wasn't just you're having some anxiety from football or something else. It's like, no, this feels very, very different. It'd be different if maybe it was your rookie year and like, okay, is this normal? But you've already worked through those things and knew where you were from a baseline perspective.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, in December of this year here, where greens, yellows, whites, all this is totally in the normal. So, one little speck, which everybody has one little speck, that comes through there. But this looks great. And this is a brain that doesn't have all those fatigue waves. Those neurons are coming down to a normal resting state where, I always compare this brain map down here is like having a great heart rate that when you run, your heart rate goes up, you stop running, your heart rate goes down, right? It's very situational. We want to have acute anxiety at times. We want to have a resting state that's down, but then when there's stress in our lives, our stress waves should come up and handle those things and then come back down to a resting state. And that's acute anxiety. That's great. We don't want chronic where it starts staying up, whether we're at rest or in an anxious situation.
The one question that I had or have when people ask me kind of my therapy and recovery from that concussion is, well, how did you know that you felt better? Or how did you put into words kind of the changing point in the first scan that you guys saw with all the red and the orange to the last scan where I had all greens and yellows, right? And I felt like it was like my brain was like a car, and I could shift in and out of thoughts and conscious and unconscious and spacing out and being focused. And it was like I was in control again. Whereas the first scan, I was completely, out of control with spacing out and not being able to focus and not sleeping. And like I can remember telling you guys that I was on 30 milligrams of melatonin just to get to sleep and hopefully stay asleep. Wow. And come to find that that's the most egregious, unhealthy dose of melatonin you could possibly be on, right?
Right.
And Bryan and Carrie said, okay, let's get off that. Let's take, let's start taking omega-3s and magnesium glycinate and just try to bring your body back to baseline of all this melatonin and just nastiness you're putting in to get to sleep, right? And I still take, all those simple supplements, right? There's no melatonin. Like all my life completely changed after doing neurofeedback. And again, I am so grateful to Carrie to be able to connect me with Bryan after knowing me as a person, knowing my path to that particular point. We had such a great relationship to the point where she just knew that, hey, I really feel like this would help you. You are a great candidate for this type of therapy. And so like I cannot stress enough, like my story is a result of Bryan and Carrie and the therapy that they brought me when I was really struggling. It saved my career as a football player, and it certainly saved, my ability to be a dad, a husband, a brother, and a son. And so for that, I just cannot thank you guys enough for leading me to a path of recovery. I'm not saying it lightly and just to say it, like, it was absolutely life changing to be part of Bryan's protocol and Carrie's protocol. Not only, to through my 4 years with the Rams, but also, even today. So incredibly grateful to be here and to speak to you guys. And it again, that this protocol of neurofeedback, while also combining therapy with Carrie, is the winning recipe in my opinion, and it changed my life. So thank you guys.
Thanks,
Awesome.
David. We love you.
Thank you so much, David. Go say hi to those girls and hang out with your family.
I will.
All right. Take care.